All right, so let's get started, Chuck. In your book, which happens to be my very favorite, and I mean that in all honesty, anybody in our community knows this is my favorite book, business book of all time. Now, if it was favorite book, it's probably gonna be something like Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now, or something like that. So when you start writing philosophy, I'll probably love that too. But here's the thing, Making Money is Killing Your Business, which I know I have an original version. It's now a red cover. And how many versions?
And we're into our fifth printing, third edition.
Third edition, fifth printing. I have literally listened to this on Audible, I'm sure at least 4 times. I've read it through a couple times. I refer to it frequently. Any newer speaker or in my Transform My Business workshop refer to it. So unabashedly, I'm going to make a plug for the book. If you don't have it, you should. And I even have a signed copy, which I remember what back. I mean, you and I have known each other for a long time. Gosh,
Yes, we have.
Decade or more now, way back in the day. So in your book, your fabulous book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, you had mentioned that you had earlier in life, you'd met someone who had shared some wisdom with you about how to live a significant life. Would you share with us a little bit about that?
Yes, thank you. It's great to be with you. And I'll jump right into that. When I was in my 20s, a creepy old guy who's probably around my age now, I'm 69. But back in your 20s, you look at the guy and you think he's pretty old. And he shared some wisdom with me. He said, Chuck, life has a built-in problem. When you're in your 20s like you are, you have all the time and all the energy, and you got no money to do anything about it. Then you get into your 30s, 40s, and 50s. You have all the energy and all the money, and you've got no time to do anything about it. And then you get into your 60s and 70s and beyond. You got all the time and all the money, and you got no energy to do anything about it. The secret to life, he said, is to figure out how to get all 3 of those, time, money, and energy, all at once as early as you can in life.
Yeah. Boy, as the closer I get to 60, I can relate to that. I feel like we feel like we are going to live forever and we're going to be eternally strong, and we can make choices that way that can help us have more energy. I think this is such an important, powerful thing for us to think about.
Yeah, it is, because the industrial age taught us that we should find money for the first 40 or 50 or 60 years, basically until we're 65. And when you get to 65, you'll get time. You won't have time before that. Spend all your life chasing money so that you can have time. And now you have time and money, and you have no energy to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And it's a false thing. We're taught to chase resources. These 3 things, time, money, and energy, I find them to be the 3 main resources in my life. Some people might find other things, but for me, time, when somebody says, what are the main resources in life? Time, money, and energy. And if you're missing one of those 3, you're not going to have as much of a fulfilling life as you could if you had all 3. The problem is we're taught to chase those as if they are the goal. They're just resources. And that really creates a lot of problems with trying to chase these things.
Right. Well, what an important topic. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I've known you a long time, and I've heard you speak over time about the most important least asked question in business. What is that? And why do you think we don't ask it?
Yeah. So for me, it took me a while to learn this. I built 13 businesses in 10 industries on 4 continents, and I'm a slow learner. Probably in my 5th business, I finally got fed up with what was happening to me each time. As I built businesses, the bigger they got, the faster my treadmill went, the more I became a hostage of my own creation. And long story short, I began to look into that, and I realized that I was asking the wrong questions. There's 6 reporters questions: who, what, when, where, how, and why. And in business, we're taught who are we selling to, and where are we selling it, and what are we selling, and when are we selling it, and all of those other reporters questions. I found that as I stepped back, I realized the most important and the most least asked question in business is why. We don't like why. There's all kinds of reasons we don't like why. It sounds like flying carpets and fuzzy wuzzy woo woo crap. And But no, the reality of it is, why is the most important, least asked question. And all of our problems in business, most of them stem from the fact that we don't have clarity on why. Clarity is power. And when we get clarity on why we're in business and why we are in life, look out, all of it goes from there. So that is the least asked, most important question in business, is why.
Mhm. So I totally agree with you as a business coach myself in a different vein. This is a super clarifying question, isn't it?
Yes,
And
everything
so,
jumps from it.
so how does answering why help us learn how to take risks to grow our business and ourselves?
Sure. Yeah, so there's a progression that I find in business. Most people are actually selling three things, whether they're selling a service or a product. Behind that, what they're really selling more often than not is clarity, hope, and risk. So clarity, I don't know what your product does, or I don't know what your service does, or I don't know why I'm in business. Well, let's get clarity on that. Why would you want to get clarity on that? Because clarity allows you to have grounded hope, not fuzzy wuzzy, gee, I hope something works, but I can see on the horizon, the top of this island. And I know that at the base of the third tree on the left, somebody buried some treasure. And if I get in a rowboat, it might take me a full day or 3 days to get there. And there's a lot of risk involved in that. But because I have clarity, that gives me hope. If somebody just said, there's somewhere out there over the horizon, there might be an island with, something on it that you might enjoy. There's not enough clarity in that. You give me clarity on what I'm chasing, and that gives me hope. And hope allows me to take a measured risk. So that's the progression that we need to get involved in life and in businesses. What am I clear about? If I get clarity on that, that gives me hope, grounded hope, practical hope, and now I'll take a risk to move forward.
One of my favorite things that you're talking about, which is where I feel like we're going with this conversation, is lifetime goals, right? And life vision. And I also hear you talk about big why. Is there a difference between those two? Are they interchangeable? Like, would you help us understand those?
Sure. Yeah, I see them as the same question. I don't see any difference between the big why and lifetime goals. To me, they're absolutely interchangeable. I just use them differently for myself. That way, it helps me figure out. Sometimes I use them as the big why, and sometimes I use them as the lifetime goals. No difference to me.
So how do we develop our big why? And maybe give us an example of your big why.
Yeah, my big why is to live well by doing good. And when you hear that, again, it sounds really fuzzy, but a good lifetime goal. Well, let me step back and say that a lifetime goal, what is a lifetime goal? A lifetime goal is something you can never check off as complete. I think that's where we need to start. And my puppy in the background is barking, but that's life.
I don't even hear it.
Oh, good. So a lifetime goal is something you can never check off as complete. In my fifth business, I'm a slow learner. It seemed like I was just recreating, the same nightmare over and over again. The faster my business went, the faster I went. And it taught me a couple things, but it taught me that I need to find something that I can chase that's big enough, that will be motivating enough to transcend business. And so that my business life could actually live inside that. So that's what a lifetime goal is. And over a series of months, I came up with Live Well by Doing Good. It was a series of years, a couple of years. My first shot was a page, maybe a page and a half, writing down, what does my ideal lifestyle look like and why would I want it? What impact do I want to have in the world around me? And let me say at this point, unless I forget later, a good big why, the research, the neuroscience on this, and the research shows that the most fulfilled, most joyful people on earth are solving other people's problems, not their own. So a good big why has a dose of, here's something for Chuck. I want to be a lifelong learner and be healthy. And there's things in there for me. But the essence of a really good big why is, how do I live in a transformative way in the world around me? How do I live every day so that I make some small impact in the world around me. We all say, well, that sounds like something, solving world hunger. I'm not necessarily talking about that. Although that's something on my list, is I would like to solve poverty. But being a great dad, being a great mom, giving to a local charity, we all feel like we're too small to make a difference. And I love Gandhi. I always insert Gandhi here when he says, anybody who thinks they're too small to make a difference has never been to bed with a mosquito.
Yeah.
And we all need to learn how to be mosquitoes in the world around us, realizing we do make a difference. What if I made the difference in my children's lives, or if I took on a small charity, or if I helped mentor some children? What is something that would get me out of bed that I could never finish? I can do it every day. I can check it off in some way. I've done it every day, and yet it's never complete. So that became a manic obsession of mine. And on the back of that book it says, use your business to build your ideal lifestyle. And what I mean by that, your ideal lifestyle is the time, money, and energy it will take to live out your big why. So I came up with this thing that's live well by doing good. Sounds fuzzy, but I can unpack that for you for at least 2 Guinnesses to tell you, here's exactly what that means to me in terms of how many business owners I want to impact, what I want to do in my children's lives, what I want to do in my community. A good big why is a values-laden statement that's big enough that your business can fit inside of it. So can everything else you do. I could be a truck driver and live well by doing good.
Sure.
And then I figure out, well, what does that mean to me this year? So I've written down some things that how I know I will have lived well by doing good this year, and then this quarter, and then this month, and every morning. And I did it again this morning. Every morning I get up and say, okay, how will I live well by doing good today? Well, I have this mastermind group we call 3 to 5 clubs. I'm going to do that this morning. Then I'm meeting with Vanessa. Then here's some ways in which I know I can live well by doing good. And then what's going to show up today that I don't know about? That's going to help me live well by doing good. And then at the end of the day, I review those. Well, how did I live well by doing good today? So it's very measurable. Your big why is good because it impacts everything you do. Alan Weidengarten, a friend of mine, when I first shared this with him years ago, he came to me a month later. He says, I know I got my big why. And I said, well, great. How do you know? And he says, because it has me.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, let's test that. That sounds adorable. How do you know it has you? Give me something practical. And he says, really simple. I can't make a decision anymore without checking in with my big why. If I want to expand my business, I ask myself, will that help me with my big why in life? If I want to buy a copier, well, is that in some way, can I see that extending my ability to get to my time, money, and energy, to have that ideal lifestyle? So it's got me. Everything I do in life is run through that. That's how we know that we've got a big why, because it has us.
In my experience with this, I thank you for this. I just love this topic. It's not something that you do in 5 minutes either. It's something that you kind of have to walk the path, right? Like, especially those in our community who are newer to speaking and consulting and starting a business, it's often something that will develop over time. It feels to me like this idea of connecting our business to like this life vision we have. Sometimes we don't know those middle steps of like the profit centers and the revenue streams and like that. So I just wanted to insert I love this topic and the motivation of it, and that to give ourselves a little grace that it will mold over time, I would anticipate.
Well, and what I experienced, Vanessa, is it took me maybe a year and a half to get from a 1.5 page thing down to a paragraph, down to a couple sentences. And then I read a book, and the subtitle of the book was Living Well by Doing Good. I said, yeah, what he said. So it codified over time. It didn't actually change. And the other thing I learned was I've always had my big why. And I wasn't giving myself freedom to really express it. It's the industrialists and all sorts of things rob us of why. We're not supposed to, that's a kid's question, is why. It's not a question for adults. So it takes us time to release that in ourselves. And this workshop that we developed will allow you and help you to get to your big why, to just uncover it. You don't need to torture this thing. We just need to get clarity on what it is. And you might get there in a week. It certainly shouldn't take you years to uncover what's already in there. But it did take me that, because I didn't have any mentoring in it.
But thank you for mentioning that. The No Nonsense Lifetime Goals online course that we have in our curriculum, I've done it myself. I know several of our Colleagues have reported back to me how much they enjoyed the course, and it was very meaningful, very well done. And we'll talk a little bit more about that probably after this, but thank you for sharing that with our community, because this is such an important piece. What we haven't maybe said in this way would be, end of our life, when we look back on our life, I feel like these lifetime goals and the big why help us get there. And what was so beautifully written here in the chapter, I think it's about a third of the way in, the life vision portion of this walks us through this idea of, I think it was a boat that was taking us like to Bermuda or somewhere, like the waypoints along the way. It really made it clear for me. And now what I tell people is like, where are you driving your bus? Like, we have to get clear about, are we trying to get, if you're trying to get from Los Angeles to New York without a map, I mean, like, you have to have the map, right, to be able to get there. And so that's really what we're talking about. It ultimately helps us have a more fulfilling life, and consequently as well, a more successful business. As we talk about big why, there are 3 assumptions, I believe I remember in the book, about developing that big why. Can you talk to us more about those assumptions that would help us or to like really crystallize this understanding?
Yeah, I was developing this idea for myself. The first thing that led me there was I had been making money and then going to a new business and becoming a hostage to that one, made money. And my assumption was, and I think it was fair, because I think we've all been taught this through the last 150, 200 years of industrial age thinking, is that if I make a bucket load of money, somehow I will be happy. That just seems to be an assumption we run with, people who, because we all say, well, yeah, okay, well, maybe you aren't any happy, but I'd sure like to try it. Well, the research shows that there is some kind of relationship between money and joy and fulfillment in life, to a very low extent, to the basically to the point where you've got your basics covered and you can go on a week or 2 of vacation. After that, the relationship between joy, happiness, and money disappear. Mm-hmm. So what came out of that was principle number 1 of these 3 was making money is not an empowering vision. It's why I named the book Making Money is Killing Your Business, because we think we're in business to make money when in fact we're not. We're in business to figure out how to use our business to build what we want to have a transformative life in the world around us, whatever that means for you. And we get this thing wrong. So we chase money as again, the goal, when in fact it's just one of the resources. And it's the main resource we're taught to chase in business. And it shouldn't be what we're all about. It is not an empowering vision. So that's principle number 1. And then principle number 2 came sort of as a result of that one, is that that we're living in a way that requires us to how do I say it, that we're chasing goals as a way of living life. So I had a guy call me after he read this book a few years ago, and he says, I'm a coach, I'm a business coach, I make $1.2 million a year coaching other people, personal take-home money. Not bad, good for you. He says, yeah, I built a business to 40 million in my 20s, I built a business to 100 million in my 30s, and now I'm helping other people do it. And I'm a hostage to my business. I work 60 hours a week making $1.2 million a year. How can you help me? And I said, well, what else do you do? He said, well, I run triathlons and I run marathons and I'm doing all these other things. He was the poster child for big, hairy, audacious goals. And I asked him, why are you doing these things? And he didn't have an answer. It was crickets. And I said, if you don't mind me being obnoxious, I'll tell you my thoughts. I think you're chasing these things because you don't have a reason to be alive. We all have a big Y-shaped vacuum in our hearts, this meaning in life. This is, why am I here? Mark Twain never said this, but it's still a great thing he's attributed with it. The 2 most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. Well, again, he didn't say that, but I really believe those are the very important days. Why are you here? And he didn't have that figured out. And so we do this, and I did this for years, for decades, because we don't really know why we're alive. We haven't spent the time to sit down and say, What is it? What is my big why? I get distracted with filling that vacuum with all sorts of finite goals. And then I get to the end of one, I just have to do another one because I don't really have a big why. Remember, a big why is a goal you never have to check off as complete. So principle number 2 is a goal realized is never motivating. And he got to 20 million, 40 million, 100 million marathons, triathlons, and none of those things were sustainably motivating for him. And the dirty little secret is that when we don't have our big why figured out, we're focused on achievement instead of fulfillment. And life is about being fulfilled, not being involved in achievement. So that's number 2. And then number 3 is very simply that we are made to be and to do something significant our whole lives, not just the first 2/3. That we bought off in a lie that Otto von Bismarck invented. He invented retirement in 1881. It did not exist. It is not a human condition. And we are elephants in the graveyard when we quit at 65 or whatever it is. We assume that our job is to work as hard as we can so that we can have enough money to go play golf. And in one of my books, I wrote a subchapter, it's called Death by Golf, because the research shows that when we stop being stressed and we stop living in a way that helps us be transformative in the world around us every day, we begin to die. We die very quickly as a result of that. So those are the 3 principles. Is making money is not an empowering vision. A goal realized is no longer motivating, and we are made to be and to do something significant our whole lives, every day of our lives, till the day we die.
So much good stuff in there. I mean, I was making notes. One thing you said that I have not heard you say before that I love, 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 love is that we all have a big Y-shaped vacuum in our hearts.
Yeah.
That's quotable. Let's hashtag that, guys. And a tribute to Chuck Blakeman. That's brilliant and so true. Well, we're just about out of time, and I'm wondering if there's anything we haven't covered that you feel would be important for our dental meetings professionals to hear before we're done.
Yeah, kind of a cap on this whole thing is that if you replace retirement with the big why and the ideal lifestyle, then we can chase time, money, and energy as resources for living out our big why. And we can get there when we're 30. You don't have to wait until you're 65. If you're hearing this when you're 61, then get there when you're 62. If you're hearing this when you're 40, get there when you're 41 or 42. Figure out how to get the time, money, and energy, and you'll never have to retire. I work 3 days a week, 3 weeks a month, and I can't imagine ever not being involved in doing something transformative in the world around me. So that's the magic in this. Is retirement is a bankrupt industrial age idea, and you don't have to chase it. Let's get those 3 resources, like my friend told me 45 years ago. Let's get all 3 of those at once as early as we can.
Oh, thank you, Chuck, and thank you for these resources. The book is incredible, truly, guys. Chuck didn't know I was going to promote it like this. And the no nonsense lifetime goals online recorded workshop you can do at your own pace really will help you crystallize what we've talked about today. And the payoff for us, Chuck, is huge. It's huge. It's everything. Really, it's about having the life that we're fulfilled in. So thank you. Thank you so much for shining your light with us and here at Dental Speakers Institute. And thanks for being a part of our summit. Well, thanks for your abundant life, and thanks for being what you are to the rest of us. You're a resource to all of us, and we appreciate you and appreciate everybody who's involved with what you're doing. Keep going. Thank you so much. And we're going to hop back into our summit now.